Hey there, my name is Alan Silvestri, and this is SEO in 2025.
Alan, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
My number one SEO tip for 2025 is that companies should be aligning their digital PR and SEO efforts in what I call the SEO PR.
Okay, aligning SEO and digital PR efforts. So what does that actually mean in practice? What is SEO PR?
Yeah, so SEO PR is nothing crazy. It's just the fact that I think most PR teams, and this is what we're seeing with a lot of our clients, they all have a PR team that comes to us and they are like, hey, how can we make the most from the work that we do? So there's a disconnect between what a lot of digital PR team, like classic digital PR teams, do and what the SEO team does. And most of the times the two departments don't even speak to each other. So what this creates is a problem where some very good backlinks, for example, that the digital PR department creates don't have the efficacy that they could have if they just follow some best practices.
Okay, so what is that disconnect between the two departments? What are the digital PR team actively doing at the moment that SEOs perhaps aren't aware of?
So the most common problems is the digital PR teams might create new content pieces that then go and get published on big publications, news sites. And the problem with most of them is that sometimes there's not going to be any link pointing to the client's company. Sometimes there might be a brand mention, but it's not linked. And so it's essentially wasting some huge potential. Some other things that we see is they might have a link to the brand or to the homepage when there could have been the potential to link out to a deep page on the website. And so all of these things were, it's essentially wasted potential.
So does this apply to all links? I mean, should SEO and digital PR be working together on all link acquisitions, or is it only a certain type of link that you're referring to?
I would say like one of my key tips and criteria that I would have is to prioritize your media and your outreach list into different segments, okay? And there should be sites that you can just do classic PR for, but there should be some that should be specifically qualified for SEO purposes, so whether they are publishing content that's relevant to specific pages that you need and that you want to rank higher for, those should be the sites that you should be prioritizing for with more SEO kind of thought in mind.
I mean, obviously there's certain elements of the SEO role, technical SEO, that digital PR probably shouldn't be aware of and would be bored of. But are you suggesting that perhaps the link building team and the digital PR team, if there are teams like that, should be sitting together and working together all the time?
I would say, like as a minimum, they should be aligning maybe every month, on the specific efforts and campaigns that are going out. But secondary, I think that there is some basic guidelines that the digital PR people should learn and they should just do themselves. It doesn't need to go super technical and super deep, but it's pretty simple. Like, for example, the first thing that I typically suggest to these companies is that instead of just prioritizing websites from like a domain rating or domain authority standpoint, is that they look at 4 key metrics that are pretty simple to look at. And we divide them into domain level metrics and page level metrics. So domain level is domain authority and the traffic to the domain that you want to get a link from. And then lastly, the page level metrics is the URL rating, so the authority of the specific page, as well as the traffic that the specific page has. So these are 4 super simple metrics that are essentially the same, but on a domain and a page level basis. And if digital PR teams could only prioritize their media list using these 4 metrics, that would make their effort like already very much more impactful.
Great. And have you struggled in your experience to persuade digital PR teams to do that? Because obviously they've probably got their own metrics as well, so they're not necessarily wanting to have full focus on the metrics you suggest.
Yeah, that's totally fair. It happens all the time. PR people try to always like shy away from some of these more technical. They think they are like vanity metrics. They want to focus on like brand awareness, so they have a more holistic view of things. But that said, it all depends on what the company goals they are, right? So if the company goal is to get more revenue, more signups, more free trial, and the SEO team has specific pages that can do that very well, then it's in the interest of the whole company if the two teams work together to get those pages to rank higher.
You also talk about creating link-worthy content that serves both PR and SEO goals. So have you had to persuade digital PR teams to change the type of content that they want to publish?
Not really change the type of content, is more of a relevance discussion most of the times. And like something that I like to mention is to prioritize like topical and thematic relevance. Okay, so like wherever they can. Something that happens quite often is that a lot of digital PR teams, to be able to get the content published in news article or lifestyle magazine, they might use a very broad kind of topical relevance. So for example, if a company is a sales software, right, their digital PR team might come up with a visual, like an infographic, for example, or something like that, that is the history of like the most important, the most famous salespeople in history, for example, right? That's like visual, maybe it's dynamic and something like that. And then they would get that published in a lifestyle magazine, right? That doesn't really work very well in terms of telling Google what the company is about, what the product is about, and to essentially pass on the link equity specifically to those pages that have the potential to bring in sign-ups trials, So instead of doing this super broad thing that can work very well to get a lot of links, but then if the links are not as effective as they could be, there's really no point. So I suggest to have a slightly more targeted approach, prioritize websites that are relevant from a domain level, so website level, but also have content that is at least more specific to your product.
And what about educating a digital PR team on the placement of links? Because Google doesn't necessarily want just all links to be acquired using a bio.
Yeah, so placement is very important. What I suggest is like 4 link placement scores, essentially. So number 1 is just a mention. Okay, so this is what I would say it's a nice placement score. So there's a mention, but there's no link. This is good for brand awareness, but it won't send people to your site, okay, because there's no link. The second one is what I would say is a good score, and that's a backlink. That is no follow. So you get the mention and you get the link, but the link is not essentially passing SEO value. Okay, so this could send people to your site, but it doesn't really do much for the SEO. The third one is a great link, and this is a mention, there is a link, and the link is do follow, and this can provide SEO benefit. But what I would say is the perfect link is a mention with a do follow link that links to a deep page, so a specific article, for example, or specific landing page, and that has a relevant anchor text as well to that page. So you can see, essentially, they could divide their media list, their outreach list into these 4 different scores, and then based on what they think works best or how aggressive they need to be, they can essentially go after these types of link in different ways.
Brilliant. So it certainly sounds like the digital PR team can learn a lot from the SEO team. What can the SEO team learn from the digital PR team?
Oh, the main thing is definitely everything that has to do with outreach, how to write emails, how to do custom pitches to people to get them interested. Because the problem with specifically link builders is that they try to always scale things up too fast. They get stuck in using the same old template that everybody's using. So essentially, like this ruins the game for everybody, right? And so PR people are very good typically at writing good emails. They reach out to make genuine connection and create partnerships. And so I think, yeah, definitely how to write emails, copywriting, all of these things, how to create genuine partnership that can lead to to a link eventually, that could be the best thing for sure.
So what would be one or two things that a digital PR professional incorporates in an email that is head and shoulders above what a link building traditional person would do in an email?
So number one, I would say everything that has to do with the structure. As I said, link builders tend to follow specific templates. For like broken links, they have a template. For the skyscraper technique, they have a template that they've seen in a blog. And so by now, most websites, most people that run websites, they become used to seeing these typical frameworks and this typical, like the way that the email look is very telling, So just as I open an email and I see that the first line is a sentence that's like, hey, I've read your post on something, and then it goes like, but I have this article that is something else. Like I already know that this is essentially an email from a link builder. Okay. So just having a different format to the email and wording things differently, not using the same things like over and over, that's the first thing. But then also being very proactive and being customized. So you could add like a PS, for example, at the end of the email and be like, hey, I noticed that there's something in your page that you could fix, some kind of mistakes, or maybe there's a link that doesn't work, or a sentence like where there's an error and stuff like that, right? So taking the time essentially to really look at the content. Obviously, you can't scale this, and so it's much more difficult. It takes more time, but the results are definitely worth it.
What's a digital PR's process generally in terms of the creation of a piece of content? I mean, do they outreach to someone and actually try and incorporate what they're saying in the piece of content, so the piece of content isn't actually established yet? Or is there a certain style of content that they prefer to produce and is more likely to get a link that points to it?
It's all of them, I would say, depending on what the company wants to do. I've seen, most of the clients do like news articles. So if something happened at the company, they get those articles published in industry-related news sites. Or companies that have the budget, they have an actual digital PR team that can do like creative content. And this can be infographics or interactive data studies. So content that has the potential to be linked. So naturally, let's say, but they also get this content published on websites. Some other companies, the companies that are more proactive with this usually, they also do link insertions. Okay, so they would find pages that have been recently published and they would essentially pitch the addition of an extra paragraph or a sentence. And we've done this as well for our clients, and it's been working very well. So as an example, we just got a link from WordStream a couple weeks ago. And we reached out because they have an article on PPC for B2B SaaS companies. And our founder, Dev, had just published a podcast or like a webinar on LinkedIn where he was talking about our a unique point of view on some things that have to do with the topic. And so we reached out to WordStream and we essentially offered them to include an extra paragraph that was talking about the same topics, so PPC for SaaS, but including this unique perspective that we have that like only our company has. So they agreed because they thought that it was unique. It would help their content to rank higher too, because I think that page was ranking position 6, position 8 for the target keyword. So within the pitch, we also mentioned, if we help you to do a refresh to your content, this might help your page rank higher as well, because Google prioritizes fresh content typically.
I mean, just finally, in relation to what an SEO can learn from a digital PR, is there any difference in terms of timescale from start to finish of the project that the digital PR would tend to focus on, utilize from a time perspective instead of an SEO? Because I would imagine a link building professional, if you want to call it that, would just simply focus on an existing piece of content and just try and get links to it, and that would be the process, and it wouldn't be much of a lengthy process. What's the average timescale between a digital PR creating the piece of content or outreaching to some contributor and actually the final piece being done and the link being acquired?
Oh yeah, that can take months. So it's definitely a longer process. Even with this link, that I just mentioned. We've been going back and forth with them for weeks just to get the content done, then the content approved, and then inserted in the site. Especially the bigger the site that you're dealing with is, the longer time they're going to have because there's multiple people involved. They are super busy all the time. They are publishing a ton of content already. So that's something else that I think link builders could learn from digital PR people is being patient and just try to prioritize quality over quantity most of the times, because it takes time to do things done well. Obviously, you do need scale, and I'm not saying that traditional, let's say, link building doesn't work anymore. It still does. It still has its place, and we still do it. But especially in the age of AI, with all of this content being produced that looks the same, sounds the same, people should be moving into more of a quality approach compared to quantity.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest in 2025?
Yeah, I would say this connects well to my last point. I would say a lot of SEO people should stop producing content if they have already produced a lot, and they should just focus more on genuinely making sure that this content sees the light of day. So getting the content to rank. This could be done either through link building or making sure that the content stays fresh. So doing regular content updates, maybe every quarter, looking for pages that get a lot of impressions, but not a lot of clicks, and going after those pages and improving them, adding extra content, optimizing SEO again. So I think this could be a better use of their time, especially, as I said, now in the age of AI, where there's a ton of content being produced every single day, and people have found a way of scaling that up really quickly. Content quality that sounds human and that is very good quality and insightful is definitely going to have more impact over the long term.
Alan Silvestri is digital PR consultant at Powered by Search, and you can find him over at poweredbysearch.com. Alan, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you, David. It's been great.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.